Over the past 16 months following Donald Trump across more than a dozen states, I've met hundreds of Americans who support the New York tycoon and his quest for the White House. From the cornfields of Iowa to decaying parts of rural Pennsylvania and even more liberal states like Massachusetts, a record number of Republicans and some Democrats have turned out in massive numbers to support the man who shocked the world when he launched his campaign over a year ago.
America first!
In this film, you'll meet some of Trump's supporters. They come from different backgrounds and walks of life, but they have one thing in common: a strong desire to send a message to the elites by changing politics for good in Washington. While there's no shortage of angry white men and very few African Americans at the massive Trump rallies that have rocked the Washington establishment to its core, there's more to some Trump supporters than meets the eye at first. While some of his fans condone comments that critics say are sexist, racist and xenophobic, there's another group that's willing to overlook his divisive rhetoric for political reasons. This group of voters are not bigots or racists. Some bristle at the multiple allegations of sexual assault that have been leveled against Trump. They're just ordinary Americans who are concerned about the future of their country. They have diverse concerns, from anxiety over the state of the economy to worries about increased gun control. But they're united on one point: an intense dislike of Hillary Clinton that is propelling their support for Donald Trump. We met Laura Schlissler and her husband Gary at a Trump rally in June. Trump had flown to Monessen, a former vibrant steel town in western Pennsylvania. He spoke to an audience of mostly blue-collar workers and local conservatives gathered in a former steel mill that is now a recycling plant. Laura and Gary had driven 31 miles from their home to hear Trump speak.
And as time goes on, I'm just finding that everything he's saying regarding policy, finance, trade, just about how this country should be, I'm really getting on board with that. I'm feeling that I'm 100% behind Donald Trump. With a big old farmhouse over there that's already been demolished. And here we have another Trump sign. This is one of my colleagues on the Republican committee. Her husband is a business owner.
Almost 4 months have passed since we last saw Laura. In this highly charged presidential campaign, it feels like an eternity. We want to know what Laura and her husband now think of the campaign and whether they still plan to vote for Trump. The couple live in a middle-class suburb of Pittsburgh called Moon. Gary is a former Air Force pilot and Laura is a retired teacher who's active in local politics. They consider themselves evangelical Christians and were once independents.
I think as time went on, we started to realize that he wasn't the typical politician. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid to step outside of the box. And I think then I even started to pick up on this when I went around getting my 250 signatures to be on the petition, was that I had Republicans just going crazy about the status quo, about all of them, about being annoyed with the Republican Party. We need to change how business is done and how it's taxed in this country and bring jobs back. And I think that's the part that they like about Trump, is that he addresses that issue.
In the final weeks of the campaign, Trump has been hammered over his treatment of women. His claims in a 2005 video about groping women and his subsequent denial have opened the floodgates, with numerous women accusing the tycoon of sexual assault, charges that he denies. But like many of his moderate fans, Laura is not fazed.
Here's the thing, he's 70 years old. And I think that men that age, or even 10 years younger, did not grow up in a period of time or even go to school or college during a period of time that they had to be so very careful about what they said. The people who are his supporters are not going to waver. You've got the independents who are undecided, some, and that's probably the biggest piece right there. You know, and then of course you've got the Republicans that either aren't admitting what they're going to do, or they're going to make a last-minute decision as they walk in that ballot box.
Trump and his anti-establishment rhetoric have found support in some unlikely places. Here at UC Berkeley, where the free speech movement was born in 1964, Trump has a loyal following in members of the Student Republican Party club. The small group of students has become a regular fixture on the campus grounds with their cardboard cutout of Ronald Reagan and Make America Great Again hats.
My name is Claire Chiara. I'm a senior at UC Berkeley. I'm double majoring in economics and political science. Here at UC Berkeley, where there are essentially lists of unspoken phrases that you shouldn't use or you cannot use for fear of immediate judgment. And so just having our Trump sign out at our table, I think is almost a subtle message that this is a free speech safe zone. This is a non-PC zone. We will get down into the nitty-gritty with you if we have to. We have seen frustration with the political status quo on both sides of the aisle, the rise of Bernie Sanders and the rise of Donald Trump. And I think a lot of people across the political spectrum can come together and agree that for many years our elected officials have not been properly representing us. I think that Donald Trump has been divisive, but not in a negative way. I think that he has brought to light some of the problems within the Republican Party. These elected officials that are refusing to endorse Trump, refusing to support him, attacking him blindly, I think are focusing on their own careers. And they're thinking, I want to preserve my relationships across the aisle. And with that, they're abandoning the Republican principles that I see Donald Trump as representing.
The fact that the poor look up to someone who's a billionaire, who is completely out of touch with many of the things that we suffer from in a city, shows that the American people, we're desperate. Hillary Clinton's not the answer for us. She's part of the problem. And you know, I supported very much Marco Rubio, who I thought was that fresh new approach, but even the people rejected him. Wait. If you have an office in D.C., we don't want you. And that seems to be the approach that the American people have today. And although I was very reluctant to be part of that, once I got in, I saw the water was pretty comfortable.
Salvatore Circosta was born in Springfield, Massachusetts. He laments the economic decline his hometown has seen over the past 30 years.
Well, this building straight ahead in the middle, that kind of a miniature skyscraper by itself, is Chestnut Towers. That was built in the 70s to be luxury apartments, and right now it's all government subsidized housing. There's no grocery store probably within about a 2-mile radius of our downtown. So if you live in the poor neighborhood, you're not going to get good food. You're not going to get fresh vegetables or fresh meat. You're going to get canned food and processed foods, which is adding to our obesity problem in the United States. And the city of Springfield doesn't even have a bookstore. The city that gave the world Dr. Seuss doesn't have a store to sell his books in. That's the problem with our city right now.
The former Catholic seminary student and a veteran last year ran for mayor. He knows Trump is no angel, but he likes how he talks to working class voters.
Someone like Trump, look, he's not a saint. Sometimes as a Catholic, I look at Donald Trump and he starts trying to quote the Bible and quote, stop, you're not a holy man. Don't act it. It might work in the South. The people who question it, I don't buy it. To the common man, I think he speaks common language. And I think people appreciate that. When my dad, who owns a small roofing company, can come home and say, Donald Trump gets it. And when the big executive can say the same thing, I think you've reached a unique area in American politics.
In a bizarre election that has repeatedly proven the experts wrong, no one can say with any certainty who will emerge as the victor on November 8. Will Donald Trump come undone over his controversies about his treatment of women, or will Hillary Clinton be derailed by her stubborn email scandal? Whether Trump wins or not, one thing is almost certain. The grassroots movement that he has sparked across the US will have changed the landscape of American politics, possibly for good. Demetri Sevastopulo, Financial Times, Washington, D.C.